There's an ominous presence in the skies above North America.
In all my experience, I have never seen something that moves like that.
This mysterious beast is committing horrifying attacks on people.
I moved back, scared. I didn't know what to do.
I think we really are dealing with something entirely different.
And a startling discovery may be physical proof.
We are in front of something extraordinary, and we have to learn more about this.
The creature defies identification.
There's one very strange looking sort of shape or formation. I just can't make it out.
Monster Quest searches for proof of the existence of a terror from above.
We have a specimen and we do not know what it is.
Witnesses around the world report seeing monsters. Are they real or imaginary? Science searches for answers on Monster Quest. North America. Over 500 million people live beneath these majestic skies. There are also over 1 million known species floating above their heads. And now, perhaps something unknown. It has been seen in the skies over the California coast, the lush Pacific Northwest, the deserts of Arizona, and craggy limestone peaks of Mexico.
It was something alive. It was not a robot. It was like more like a being, like an entity.
Bulky, dark, slate grey in colour, and it was just coming straight towards us.
It had some sort of feet, an arm, and it was simply hanging. It didn't move at all. It was floating.
Eyewitnesses report seeing large, human-like creatures floating or flying hundreds of feet above them. Most appear to be wingless, and some are covered with a kind of cape or hard exterior suit. The beings hover or glide silently through the air. Police reports refer to the sightings as unidentified flying humanoids. The witnesses question whether the floating objects are natural, man-made, or the manifestation of a more mysterious phenomenon. But one police officer believes that they're very real.
I start to follow it, and to my surprise, I run into a creature that terrified me.
Officer Leonardo Samaniego was tailing a robbery suspect on the streets of Monterrey when he had an experience that still haunts his dreams.
I see something like a black bag falling down on me when I pass under the tree. I step on the brakes and see a silhouette.
Samaniego quickly realized it was something unimaginable.
When it stands up in front of me, I stop the car and first of all, try to make out what it is.
What he saw appeared female, but didn't seem human.
She starts to hide from the light. She closed her eyes. She had completely black eyes, but I couldn't see any eyelids or anything. She does this, and then quickly turns to face me. I can see that the hat she's wearing goes down like this, as if it were tied down. When she comes down on her back, she doesn't touch the ground and she's like this, with her arms open. She comes down, and that's when I ask for backup.
Samaniego frantically radioed for help as the creature ominously floated towards him, ready to attack.
She starts walking. I put the car in reverse. When I arrive at the street corner, I hear her crash against the windshield. And then I see her like this, and I move back, scared. I didn't know what to do.
Samaniego was knocked unconscious by the flying creature during his encounter.
Later, another officer found me and woke me up. They say that she slapped me 3 times. I don't know. I wasn't aware of anything then.
For many months afterwards, the memory of this creature's face gave the officer nightmares.
Still, every night, I was dreaming about those eyes. With my eyes closed, I could still see her gaze and her face, all of this and her eyes. Her eyes were very present and very, very black. I used to get scared, and I used to wake up scared and crying.
Asustado, llorando.
Even more shocking than Samaniego's account is the fact that there may be video evidence to prove it. In the skies above Santa Monica, California, a bulky humanoid shape is reported floating over this wealthy Los Angeles suburb. Here, a dark, human-like form is seen above craggy peaks near Monterrey, Mexico, close to Samaniego's encounter. Further to the south in Mexico City, several airborne humanoids are filmed drifting above this metropolis of 22 million people. This strange phenomenon has been reported across North America, with similar objects reported in the skies above Arizona, Wisconsin, and Washington State. This video footage will be examined and analyzed by MonsterQuest using sophisticated forensic techniques. But some experts are skeptical that the video is even real.
When I first hear about flying humanoids of this kind, my thought is it's hard to distinguish it from a hoax.
Joe Nickel, a researcher of unexplained phenomena, says that if the videos aren't hoaxes, then the only explanation could be misidentification.
The other possibility is that it's very lightweight, perhaps helium-filled craft, such as you would get from a balloon or a cluster of balloons.
Nickel will only be convinced by hard proof, and the evidence that may already exist in the form of a corpse found in Metepec, just 32 miles southwest of Mexico City. Now MonsterQuest will launch an investigation into this bizarre phenomenon. The expedition team has traveled to Monterrey, Mexico, the location of many of the sightings of the flying humanoid creatures.
Well, the nation of Mexico is a very magical and mysterious place.
Ken Gerhard, an author from Texas, will lead the search in the location of Officer Samaniego's spine-chilling encounter.
Whatever he encountered that night was very real to him. So my impression is that Leonardo did have some type of encounter with a non-human entity, if you will. It's also interesting to note that many other people in the neighborhood of Guadalupe had reported a similar type of creature flying around, and in fact police officers came forward after the fact saying that they had also seen this being.
All the eyewitness descriptions that he's reviewed point to a creature that is completely unknown to man.
There's an apparent lack of wings, and all of the animals that we recognize in science, birds, bats, or what have you, of course they rely on wings and constant motion and inertia to remain airborne. That we can't rule out the possibility that we could be dealing with something beyond our realm of understanding. Interdimensional beings, if you will.
In a rugged canyon outside of Monterrey, the team will search for traces of an unknown presence. The area is surrounded by a massive limestone mountain range, which is riddled with caves.
Monterrey is very, very interesting because of the location, because it is sort of pocketed and surrounded by these craggy peaks and mountains and mountainous areas. And there are legends and reports that go back here centuries.
Gerhard has enlisted Marco Reynoso, a local investigator, and Sergio Estavillo, a wilderness guide, to help him.
Yes. This is, of course, Monterey. Geographically speaking, what are we looking at here as far as what do we have in terms of the surrounding mountains, caves, and so forth? What is the lay of the land, so to speak?
Yes, here we have the Cerro de las Mitras. It's a mountain where you can find different mines and caves. This part, here we have El Cerro de la Silla. Is like...
Reynoso has collected details of numerous local sightings of humanoid creatures.
I have many reports of other policemen in the Santa Catarina River, and other reports in other zone, Apodaca County.
Shortly after beginning their search, the team meets a local rancher who tells them about unusual aerial activity.
They do come down close to where people are, because a short while ago in the hills of Guitarrita, some members of my family were around and a UFO came down. I've seen them over there, and they've come down there by the Guitarrita. They've never harmed anybody, but people are shocked and get scared.
It is believed by locals that the creatures are nocturnal cave dwellers. As a result, Gerhard has outfitted the team with night vision equipment and targeted a cave 5,000 feet above sea level to start the search.
Caves have been very, very good in terms of discoveries of different types of fossils, cave paintings. These were, of course, habitations for thousands of years of the early indigenous peoples all over the world, as well as animals. Any type of animal might seek refuge in a cave. They're excellent hiding places.
The team reaches the opening and enters the limestone caves.
If there were any type of undiscovered animal or creature, whether it be a gigantic form of bat, a surviving pterosaur from our prehistoric past, they would need a place to hide.
Looks like there might be some different passageways and things up here ahead.
200 yards into the cave, something captures Ken's imagination.
There's one very strange looking sort of shape or formation. And I get a very, very eerie feeling being down in this cave.
Monster Quest is searching for unidentified flying humanoids, known to aggressively attack people. Ken Gerhard believes the same extraordinary phenomenon may have been witnessed centuries ago by North America's earliest civilizations.
Within the different legends and folklores of Mexico, we find many references to these flying humanoids or winged humanoid type creatures. Specifically here in the mountains around Monterey, we hear reports of the legends of the Birdman, which is described as a humanoid figure with, of course, the wings, talons, and other characteristics of a bird.
Mayan legends tell of hybrid creatures that stalked local villages.
There's the Camazotz, or Zots, the death bat. And this is depicted in Maya engravings as a anthropomorphic creature with the body of a man and the head of a bat. And it's often associated with sacrifice and death.
Many believe some of these bizarre mythological creatures had extraterrestrial origins.
We have all of these references to the gods from the skies, if you will, visiting the early indigenous peoples of Mexico. We have these links to possible alien visitations, UFOs, that date back to the Maya.
In the 1940s and 50s, accounts began to emerge from across the United States of similar sightings.
place called Chehalis, Washington, several people reported seeing this humanoid-type figure floating up about 200 feet in the air. Appeared to be wearing some type of control panel on his chest and making sort of a whizzing sound as he passed over the countryside.
In 1953, a disturbing encounter was described in detail by a family in Houston, Texas.
Suddenly they noticed this silhouette of what they first mistook to be a large moth moving across the lights. And it eventually settled in the branch of a large tree, and it was then that they could make out the shape or form of a humanoid figure. And they estimated that he stood about 6.5 feet tall, and they could clearly see that he was dressed in a black paratrooper uniform, complete with boots and a helmet. He also appeared to have some type of bat-like wings attached to his body and perhaps a cape. And a short while later there was a whoosh and a flash of light across the street. It seemed to be something not of the natural world, perhaps something more alien in nature.
No physical evidence of the creature was found until 2007, when workers in a southern suburb of Mexico City discovered what they believed to be physical proof of a humanoid presence.
I believe we are in front of something extraordinary, and we have to learn more about this.
Jaime Maussan, a journalist and investigator, has possession of the corpse of an infant creature. He believes it is a species connected to the flying humanoids reported in this area.
Back in May 2007, something happened in a ranch where they captured a strange creature. The owner of the ranch came to me and brought this creature, saying that probably was an extraterrestrial or something else.
This photograph shows the creature when it was reportedly still alive.
Its manner was very aggressive. It wanted to get loose or attack people.
Augustine Escobar was one of the few people to see the creature before it died.
When I arrived on the spot, they had it in a rat trap and we started observing it. I only saw it for about 5 minutes. To me it was strange, totally strange, like a type of rat in between rat and monkey. It looked like it didn't have any skin nor hair. It had fangs, a large head. I didn't see it for very long because, to be honest, it scared me a bit. Because when you tried to move in closer, it threw itself against you.
He is convinced this aggressive beast is not of earthly origin.
I think it must be an extraterrestrial, because I've never seen a similar creature from this world.
The Monster Quest science team will try to discover the biological identity of the mummified specimen. The first step is DNA analysis.
We're considering taking a piece from the tail to be able to take it to the laboratory and analyze whether there's DNA. And see what this DNA could be, to compare it. So we're going to proceed and take the sample. We're going to be very careful. I'm going to put on a pair of gloves and place it in a sterile container to eliminate any possible contamination.
The expedition team is exploring a cave at La Huasteca Canyon, looking for physical traces of a similar creature. The team places light sticks along the route so they can find their way out.
Pretty smooth.
These caves are nesting places for bats, birds, and other native species. But the team thinks they may also be hiding something else.
Well, first thing I've noticed is sort of a scent or smell, something I haven't noticed so far. Then higher up in the cave, this area down
They find a long vertical shaft, which could be a perfect hiding place for a flying creature.
Looks like it's very deep, maybe at least 50 feet, if not more.
Night vision equipment allows the team to visually inspect the bottom of the shaft.
Looks like it's about 50-foot drop, and then it kind of veers off to the right there. But it's impossible to tell from this angle what if anything is down there at that point. There's one very strange looking sort of shape or formation. I just can't make it out. Well, certainly I get a very, very eerie feeling being down in this cave. It's taken us quite a while to get down here to this point, and we still don't know what lies beyond there.
We talk with a lot of people that live near here, and they tell the same stories. They describe them the same way. So it's difficult to be a coincidence. I think this is something.
Monster Quest is searching for evidence of the phenomenon of unidentified flying humanoids. This video was taken in Mexico City in June 2005. The person who shot it believes that he captured something never before seen by humans.
I don't know. I can only say that it was something unknown.
Horacio Roquette's morning started off like any other.
That day was a weekday and I started working early, at 7 in the morning. Only, I overslept a little.
But as he approached the street, something made him glance up at the sky.
It was like intuition. So I turned around and looked towards the sky. And I saw something out of the ordinary. So what I did then was to run back for the camera.
Horacio and his sister had the presence of mind to capture this strange object on videotape.
The moment I turned on the camera and start filming it, it started moving. It's incredible. I turned on the camera and started filming, and it almost appeared as if it noticed me. You could see it was heavy, in a dark color, a type of humanoid. It looked like some sort of spacesuit. Something was very strange. I remember there being a lot of light. Maybe it was emanating some sort of energy.
Everything gets into the computer, everything gets analyzed, compared, authenticated.
Jim Horrocks, a law enforcement video analyst in Los Angeles, would use state-of-the-art technology to examine the footage.
So what we're seeing is the raw footage from Horacio in Mexico, handheld video, very shaky.
The first step is to try and stabilize the image.
Because of the shake in his hands, the subject matter flies all over the screen, and so what we attempt to do with motion stabilization is to center that unknown object in the center of the screen.
Next, Horrocks searches for a single frame of video that can be enhanced.
That's a pretty clear frame there. There's very little contrast on this, but we can tighten that up a little bit.
Then, by zooming in, Horrocks reveals each individual pixel of the video.
That's at 300%. You still have the round shape, larger at the top, smaller at the bottom. You have something protruding from it.
He examines the eerie reddish glow more closely. Either the object is emitting light, or it is reflecting light from some other source, like the morning sun.
If we assume that this is correct, that it's 7:15 in the morning in June in somewhere in Mexico, the sun hasn't quite risen over these buildings in which to create a lit courtyard. Is it possible that the sun is illuminating and causing these highlights, these reflections? Certainly.
Horrocks tries a second frame, which reveals more detail and definition in the object.
And essentially, I'm just searching through the timeline to find a spot where we get the most detail possible.
Another frame in particular shows an eerily human shape.
So I think this image here, when people view this back and this image sticks in their mind as saying this is a flying humanoid, because you have a head shape and legs and arms, and he appears to have his hand on his hip and he's waving to us. I can see where people could come to that conclusion.
Joe Nickel remains skeptical. He says that the sightings of flying humanoids can be explained by a tradition at Mexican celebrations.
My understanding is that in Mexico, there's at weddings, clusters. That in Mexico, there's at weddings, clusters of balloons are released. If there is already some mythology of beings in the sky, then that creates a context for identifying it as humanesque in some kind of way.
Nickel will test the theory that the sightings are misidentified helium-filled balloons.
Well, these are clusters of balloons such as might be released at a celebration, and or of course for some other purpose. And we're simply seeing how these look when we send them aloft, see if they are recognizable as balloon clusters. We'll see what it looks like. Okay, and you can send it up. Okay, now they're scattering like I thought they might. Looking a little scattered from here. But I'm wondering if they maybe should be in a little tighter. Certainly, if one were doing this for any kind of hoax, we want them to stay together. Let's see.
Nickel tries to cinch the next cluster tighter.
Okay, this should do better. Release. Much better already. Only it's gone out of sight. It's better because it was not pulled apart. It needs to look at all like an unidentified flying humanoid. Rule number one is that it needs to stay together.
He encases the final cluster in black plastic.
Well, here's a neat way to keep the cluster from looking like a cluster. And if someone were deliberately hoaxing such an effect, this would be one of many ways to produce an effect. Well, it's certainly keeping together better.
The best evidence that the team has found remains the unidentified corpse. The doctors are having trouble agreeing on just what it is.
If it's not a primate, what is it? Here we're facing something terrestrial or something unknown.
Monster Quest is investigating a strange and unnerving phenomenon. Flying, human-like forms. They have been reported floating in the skies of several North American cities.
I definitely had the sense that it was aware of me.
In 2004, Ed Sherwood witnessed an airborne human form above the streets of Santa Monica, California.
I noticed a dark object, bulky looking object flying towards us but making no sound. At first I thought it was a helicopter, but at the distance that it would have been I should have heard something.
Sherwood began to videotape this strange object.
It looked oddly humanoid, looked large, about 7 feet perhaps in height, 3 to 4 feet wide, maybe a foot deep, bulky, dark slate grey in colour, and it was just coming straight towards us.
He believes that what he saw was not a known object, either natural or man-made.
It didn't sway, didn't bob, it didn't act like tethered balloons or a parade character that had got loose. Inflatable object. It never seemed to be lighter than air. I totally felt that it was there, aware that I was there.
Ed Sherwood and numerous other eyewitnesses are convinced that what they are seeing is a conscious, living creature. The proof may be in a Mexico City laboratory. Monster Quest has summoned a team of forensic scientists to test the bizarre baby humanoid specimen that was trapped and killed in 2007.
Let's not forget we are forensic scientists and we want to get to the truth of this historic occurrence.
Dr. Angel Gutierrez and his colleagues initially believed this tiny specimen was in fact a small species of monkey that had been skinned.
It appeared to have no covering tissue, that the muscle was exposed. That caught our interest, and first, our studies seem to show that this has been tampered with, that it was a little monkey that had been skinned after its death.
Further investigation revealed that the creature did have skin, but of a very unusual kind.
It does have it in a very rudimentary and not very common form, but it does have covering tissue. Therefore, we can draw the conclusion that this being has not been tampered with.
The team's review of the specimen has revealed that it has semi-human characteristics.
When you see the ankle, when you see the feet of the creature, they're very human. When you see the hands of the creature, they're very human.
The creature's feet are much shorter than those of small primates, like monkeys. The scientists decide that, like humans, the creature may have stood on 2 legs.
We came to the conclusion that it had the ability to stand up straight because it has a double arch. This is one arch, and this is another. These arches allows us to determine that this being had the capacity to stand on 2 feet.
The shape of the eye sockets provides clues about the creature's visual capabilities.
Its eye sockets are too big, which makes us believe that it had a very good and complex sense of vision.
Intrigued by this strange beast, the team turns to state-of-the-art medical imaging.
We have a specimen and we do not know what it is.
By using MRI scans of the creature, they're able to construct a 3D computer model of the body. This allows for further insight into the creature's anatomy.
Our attention is drawn to the rear cavity, which is where the brain structures are. That's where you find the organs that take charge of equilibrium, fast movements, coordination, and fine movements. Usually, you find a ratio of between 4 and 1. In a human, we will find a certain ratio between the rear cavity and the brain. This specimen has a rear cavity which is bigger.
The creature seems to be highly irregular. The hairless skin, the shape of the brain, the large eye sockets, the human-like feet, and the makeup of the inner ear all point to something unknown to modern science. The team must rely on DNA tests to cast light on the mysterious beast's origins.
Here, what's interesting is that this is historical and valuable, because it's put science to the test.
Monsterquest has traveled North America, investigating spine-chilling reports of unidentified humanoid forms. This police officer was physically attacked in his patrol car by an aggressive flying humanoid. This man witnessed a bulky floating form over the streets of Santa Monica. These forensic scientists are examining an unknown specimen discovered near Mexico City. And this couple videotaped a glowing man-shaped object that was floating several hundred feet above their apartment block. Jim Horrocks is examining the video gathered to determine its authenticity. Horrocks inspects the clip of the suspected glowing humanoid filmed above Mexico City to determine whether it might have been faked.
There are no indications that this has been faked or photoshopped or manipulated. Some of the unique characteristics of cameras have kind of been maintained in the image itself, so I think it's safe to say that while the scene may be constructed in some way, I don't think there's any problems with this tape.
Horrocks examines footage of the Monterey area, close to the location of the police officer's sighting.
There's a bit more contrast and color to deal with than in the previous images. The object itself seems to be following a fixed trajectory, almost as if it's going down a cabling.
Generating a black and white outline of the moving object shows it has a solid and unvarying shape, unlike a balloon cluster.
It seems to be smaller at the bottom and the top and kind of bulging in the sides, and as it progresses along that doesn't seem to change.
Horrocks suggests an alternative explanation.
There seems to be a bit of a spike to that color information at the top of it that would indicate some kind of hook that's allowing it to be suspended. And so this could very well be some kind of gondola or basket to move cement, rock, what have you, across a cement works or rock quarry.
The other images are not clear enough to make a definitive identification.
I don't think it's a recognizable object. Someone might argue that it's a balloon, a weather balloon, party balloon, something of that nature, but is it a flying humanoid? There's not enough information to determine that.
Joe Nickel has launched and filmed several homemade balloon clusters. He now compares his videos with those of the suspected flying humanoids.
My first reaction is that it's kind of a disaster, because the cluster, in the heavy winds that we have, the balloons are just going in all directions.
Nickel believes a tighter cluster looks more convincing and more humanoid-like.
Now, that's beginning to look at times it looks very much like an unidentified flying humanoid when you freeze frame it. That's very similar.
He concludes that some of the sightings could indeed be misidentified balloons.
I think absolutely they could be balloon clusters, some of the sequences that we've studied.
The Monster Quest expedition team is looking for proof that the flying humanoid is not just a recent phenomenon. Deep in La Huasteca Canyon, Ken Gerhard has found traces of the earliest human inhabitants of northern Mexico.
What we have here are some ancient petroglyphs or carvings in this rock wall, and from what I understand, these are possibly as old as 3,000 years old. We have a variety of different types of animals depicted here. Most interesting here is some type of bird-like animal.
Gerhard finds other marks on the canyon walls that indicate a different kind of aerial presence, something that might be connected to the local sightings of strange humanoid forms.
I do notice one interesting shape up here, which is a sort of a circular object. I believe the senor that we spoke to on the way in indicated that he felt this might be a representation of some type of flying object, if you will, unidentified flying object. But of course, due to the stylized nature of these petroglyphs, it's very hard to discern exactly what we're looking at here. These are obviously very symbolic in nature.
For Gerhard, the experience of the canyon extends beyond his human senses.
I get a very, very odd feeling standing here. It's very spiritual, very otherworldly. I can certainly understand why the local people, why the indigenous people felt like this was a sacred place.
Ken Gerhard and the expedition team feel they have only just begun to unlock the secrets of the flying humanoids.
I understand that the chances of finding such a strange creature, though it would be monumental, is fairly remote.
Gerhard is convinced this rugged terrain merits further exploration.
The Sierra Madre Mountains are just vast and uninhabited and unexplored. Certainly if there are any creatures or animals unknown to science in North America, this would be an excellent place for them to live.
The Monster Quest science team has finished its analysis of the strange and unidentified corpse.
If it's not a primate, what is it? Here we're facing something terrestrial, or something unknown. As a scientist, I personally have to say that it's probably a species in evolution, or an unknown species.
Es una especie en evolución o una especie desconocida para nosotros.
The DNA testing confirmed this theory. No identifiable genetic material was found, and the results cannot be explained.
We analyze bone and skin and hair, and then we don't have nothing, and that is a surprise for us. What happened? I don't know.
This Monster Quest investigation has uncovered some interesting facts. An expert has reviewed the numerous videos of these creatures. Analysis shows that the footage was not faked, but cannot be explained. The science team has investigated the unknown specimen and found that it shows distinct differences from all known species. And the team has also cataloged many eyewitness accounts of people who saw unknown flying humanoids.
No lo sé, simplemente lo que puedo comentar es que...
All I can say is that it was something unknown. You can make your own hypothesis and you ask yourself a lot of questions when you see something like that. But it's outside of your reasoning and logic.
Razonamiento de tu lógica.
Just don't tell me it's a fraud, because the video is as true as me.
I didn't actually believe in witches, ghosts, or anything like that. Stories and legends, yes, but that I would believe in witches or the devil, no. After this, I found out that they do exist.
Después de eso ya me di cuenta de que sí existen.